The bagel knife scraped across the plate, a sound far too ordinary for the bombshell my mother had just dropped. "We're giving them your room," Sarah announced nonchalant, like discussing the chance of rain. I managed a smile. "Okay, I'll get my stuff together tonight." The very next day, I found an apartment and signed the lease without a word to them. She'd said it just like that. No preamble, no apology, just a casual statement while carefully slicing her breakfast. It felt like being pushed off a ledge without warning. I was 24, still living in my childhood home, working a full-time job at Metro Logistics, trying desperately to save enough to get out on my own without ending up broke. Every single paycheck felt like walking a tightrope, some for savings, some for my own bills, some kicked back to help with household costs, like the new furnace I'd paid for last winter that everyone conveniently forgot was funded by me. I wasn't freeloading, I was strategically waiting, quietly existing in a space that never quite felt like mine. "Okay," I repeated, forcing that smile wider, determined not to show how much it stung. "I'll get my stuff together tonight." That was it. The exact moment something inside me clicked. Done. It wasn't just about the room, was it? It rarely is. The room was just the final crack in the facade I'd been maintaining since leaving high school. I hadn't truly felt at home in that house for years. I was just useful, like a quiet appliance humming along until it broke, or someone needed the space it occupied. I headed to work that morning feeling strangely numb, but a decision had settled deep inside me. I wasn't coming back here, not permanently. I kept it to myself. During my lunch hour, I scrolled through apartment listings online. I found a simple one-bedroom place just 15 minutes from Metro Logistics and paid the deposit immediately. 4 months rent up front. I'd been saving that money for something else. Maybe a down payment on a car. Maybe just a vague hope for a future that didn't feel borrowed. But this felt necessary. I went back to the house that evening, plastered on the same smile when Sarah asked if I could haul the trash cans to the curb. I even reset the Wi-Fi when it inevitably crashed during dinner because my sister, Megan, needed it for her online art class. Inside my head, though, I'd already moved out. And that night, lying in bed, I began plotting the quiet withdrawal of all the invisible support I provided. First on the list, the yard work. Every Saturday morning for the past 2 years, I'd been the one to mow the lawn, trim the edges, bag the clippings, and even spread seed on the bare patches each spring. I never made a fuss, I just did it. Quiet, unpaid labor. My dad, Robert, used to handle it ages ago. But as soon as I was strong enough, the task silently shifted to me. No thank yous. No acknowledgement. That next weekend, I let it go. The grass was already getting long after the rain earlier in the week, but I didn't go near the shed. I walked right past it, got in my car, and drove off for coffee like it was just another Saturday. When I returned, Robert was standing on the lawn, arms folded, glaring at the shaggy green expanse as if it had personally offended him. "Did you forget to mow?" he grumbled, clearly irritated. I shrugged nonchalantly. "Nah, just wasn't feeling up to it." He blinked like the words didn't compute. "So, are you gonna do it later?" "Probably not," I replied, walking past him into the house. "Got other plans." It was a tiny act of defiance, but the effects were immediate. By Sunday evening, predictably, the Wi-Fi sputtered and died again. Megan started yelling from her room because her art space session dropped midstream. Normally, I'd be the one fiddling with the router, checking the frayed Ethernet cord behind the entertainment center, rebooting the whole network. I knew the routine by heart after fixing it 15 plus times in the last year alone. This time, I stayed put in the kitchen, packing leftovers into containers, pretending I couldn't hear her frantic calls. "Mom!" Megan shouted. "The internet's down again." "I don't know how to fix this," Sarah called back from downstairs. "Where's Alec?" she snapped. I let them struggle for a good 30 minutes before I calmly walked out with my lunch prep for the week. Silence followed me out the door. That week, I also stopped picking Megan up from school. No warning. I'd been doing it nearly every Monday and Wednesday for months because Sarah's work schedule clashed, and Robert refused to leave his job early. I'd rearranged my own hours at Metro Logistics to make it happen, quietly absorbing the inconvenience. Wednesday rolled around. I finished my shift at the normal time. Megan apparently sat waiting at the school office for 90 minutes before someone finally came for her. The tension in the house when I got home was thick enough to taste. "You forgot Megan today," Sarah stated, her voice dangerously flat. "No," I said calmly, placing my keys on the counter. "I didn't forget," she just stared. I walked past her toward my room. I think that was the first moment they started to grasp, just a little, how many strings I'd been quietly pulling. But I was just getting started. By Thursday, the kitchen faucet was dripping again. That slow, annoying plink, plink, plink that had resurfaced after I'd fixed it last year with a new O-ring I bought myself. I'd even driven across town to a big box home supply store, Build Mart, to find the exact right size, though I never mentioned the effort. I just fixed the leak and moved on. Now, the drip was back, along with the familiar damp spot under the sink. Robert was crouched down there with a flashlight and a wad of paper towels, muttering under his breath like he was investigating a serious crime. I strolled past, taking a sip of my water bottle. "You know how to fix this leaky thing, right?" he asked without looking up. "Yep," I said, pausing briefly. "I do." He glanced up, obviously expecting me to jump in. I just kept walking. That evening after dinner, I didn't clear a single dish. No rinsing plates, no wiping down counters. I simply stood up, stretched, and headed to my room, leaving the three of them amidst the dirty plates, pretending not to notice the shift. The atmosphere in the house was practically buzzing by now. On Friday, a text from Sarah popped up while I was at work. "Can you cover the cable bill this month? We didn't realize it was due today, and Robert's paycheck is delayed." I looked at the message for a beat. Over the past year, I'd covered unexpected bills like this more times than I could count, quietly without being asked twice. I'd saved them from late fees and service interruptions repeatedly. I even had reminders set on my own phone for their due dates. Not anymore. I typed back, "Sorry, can't. Got my own rent now, remember?" She never replied. The next day I came home to a dark porch. The bulb had burned out again. The house felt dimmer, quieter than usual. Megan was slumped at the kitchen table, looking frustrated as she flipped through homework, tapping the wrong end of her pen against the paper. "You didn't get printer paper?" she asked accusingly, without glancing up. I had always been the one to buy it, always remembering before it ran out. "Nope," I said, dropping my bag near the door. "Figured someone else might handle it this time." She slammed the pen down and stormed off. Sarah just watched me from the doorway. Her eyes narrowed like she was trying to solve a complex puzzle where all the pieces had suddenly changed shape. I offered her a small, calm smile. Things were visibly starting to fray, not because I was being actively malicious, but simply because I had stopped. I had stepped away. That seemed to be the most terrifying part for them. They were finally seeing all the invisible threads I'd been holding that kept things running smoothly. Saturday morning arrived, and with it, no coffee. I heard cabinet doors banging, followed by a muffled curse from Sarah when she found the coffee canister empty. I'd been the one keeping it stocked too, buying the large bags from the wholesale club near my job, grabbing them on my way home, never mentioning it, just making sure it was there. Now they were faced with an empty container and a silent coffee maker, looking bewildered. I sat in the living room calmly eating a bowl of cereal, already dressed, keys sitting next to me. I didn't offer a word. Sarah looked at me over the rim of her mug, which held only hot water. "Are you heading out?" she asked. Her tone was carefully neutral, but the question hung in the air. "Yeah," I replied, swallowing my last spoonful. "Meeting my landlord. Need to pick up a couple of things." She stiffened almost imperceptibly. I just gave a slight nod, stood up, and walked out before she could probe further. I returned about 2 hours later with a few more boxes, feeling even more resolved. That afternoon, I began methodically clearing out my room. Not in a rush, not making a scene, just steadily, box by box. I carried each one out to my car, loading it into the backseat or trunk, then went back inside for the next. I could feel their eyes tracking my movements the entire time. No one asked what I was doing. No one offered to lend a hand. By dinner time, I was about halfway finished packing. Robert tried to maintain normalcy, flipping through TV channels as if nothing unusual was happening. Megan remained glued to her phone screen. Sarah, however, decided it was time to try and regain control. "So," she began, "we were talking, and we think maybe it would be better if we held off on giving Megan your room for a little while." I paused mid-chew. "Why's that?" She shot a quick glance at Robert, who suddenly seemed fascinated by the ceiling fan. "Well, you know, with everything, maybe it's just not the best time right now." I finished my bite, swallowed deliberately. "No, actually, it's the perfect time." The clinking of forks stopped. The air went still. "I already signed a lease," I stated plainly. "I'll be fully moved out by Wednesday." Megan blinked rapidly. "Anawagu." "Wait, are you actually serious?" I looked her straight in the eye. "Megan, you literally packed my belongings into plastic tubs when I wasn't here. I found them piled under the basement stairs. So yes, I'm serious." She looked down at her plate. Sarah's voice dropped, becoming softer. You should have told us how you felt. I did, I countered evenly. You just didn't hear it because I smiled when I said it. And then I went back to eating my dinner, calmly, while the three of them sat there in a heavy silence, the power dynamic in the room feeling completely inverted. They finally understood I wasn't making a point. I was making my exit. By Monday evening, I felt like a ghost drifting through the house that was no longer mine. Boxes were neatly stacked near the front door, clearly labeled. Kitchen supplies, clothes, books, electronics. Anything I considered truly mine was either already transported to my new apartment, still mostly empty but buzzing with potential, just 25 minutes away, or packed securely in my car. I wasn't rushing the departure. No dramatic midnight flight, no slamming doors. I wanted them to witness the slow fade, to see the quiet erosion of the support system they hadn't known existed. The garbage cans were still full at the curb. The mail hadn't been brought in. The toilet in the upstairs bathroom had started its annoying intermittent running cycle again, something I'd fixed at least 3 times before, but wouldn't be fixing this time. I walked past all these small signs of neglect with a growing sense of peace. At one point, Robert intercepted me in the kitchen. "Are you sure you're doing the right thing here, Alex?" he asked, folding his arms, attempting a concerned tone that didn't quite land. I opened the refrigerator. Half the contents were things I'd bought the previous week. A 4-pack of berry yogurt only I ate, a quarter-gallon of orange juice that always seemed to vanish before I got more than one glass. I grabbed a bottle of water and turned back to him. "Yeah," I said firmly. "Feels like the first right thing I've done in a long time." He frowned slightly. "You think it's going to be easy out there? Rent, utilities, all of it?" I held his gaze for a moment longer than necessary. Then I let a small smile surface. "I've been helping cover your bills for the past year. I think I'll manage mine okay." He didn't reply, just stared, as if waiting for a punchline I wasn't going to deliver. Then he turned and left the room. Upstairs, Megan's door, my old door, was slightly ajar. I caught a glimpse inside. She'd already started putting up posters and some fairy lights, but the shelves I'd built into the closet were still there. And the scuff on the door frame I'd touched up after she kicked it during a teenage tantrum was still faintly visible. She noticed me looking. "You could have just said no, you know," she muttered, avoiding eye contact. I nodded slowly. "And you could have maybe asked first?" I continued down the hall. The anger had mostly dissipated over the last few days. What remained felt sharper, cleaner, like clarity. Tuesday morning I left. I loaded the final box into my car's back seat and took one last detached look at the house. The porch light was still out, the recycling bins were overflowing, and I could faintly hear Megan complaining about the Wi-Fi again. It felt almost fitting. Before driving away, I walked back inside one last time and taped a single sheet of paper to the refrigerator door. Plain white paper, black marker, just the facts, no emotion. It listed things I handled that might have gone unnoticed. Mowed lawn weekly, 2 years. Took out trash and recycling bins. Covered 5+ utility bills when missed. Fixed Wi-Fi router, 115 times regular grocery runs, approx. Peppa's earned $500 over 10 months. Picked up Megan from school. 40 times replaced porch light bulbs. 4x cleaned kitchen after dinner most nights. Quietly contributed $250 to Robert's truck repair. Kept things running while feeling like a long-term guest. Beneath the list, a final sentence. Good luck managing it all. I'm off to be a guest in my own place. Then I pulled the door shut behind me, locked it, and didn't look back. Silence from them the first day. By the second day, the calls began trickling in. First, Sarah, a missed call, followed by a text. "Hey, the internet isn't working. Do you remember the password for the router?" Then Robert, trying to sound practical but his irritation leaking through. "Where did you put the key for the lawnmower shed?" I ignored both. By Friday, the messages shifted, tinged with guilt and bewilderment. Megan sent a single-word text. "Seriously?" I suppose they assumed I'd break, that the first sign of trouble would have me rushing back to fix things. Maybe they saw my moving out as a dramatic gesture, a statement rather than a permanent departure. They were mistaken. Meanwhile, my small apartment was slowly starting to feel like a home. I assembled a cheap bookshelf, bought myself a set of mismatched dishes I liked, and played my music without worrying about bothering anyone. The quiet I had craved for so long was finally real. Not an empty, cold silence, but a peaceful one. It felt like the constant background hum of expectation had finally been switched off. The following week, Sarah called again. This time I answered. Her voice sounded strained, thin around the edges. You didn't have to leave quite like that, Alex. I didn't bite, just waited. We... we didn't realize how much you were actually doing, she admitted. The garbage. The bills. I had no idea it was that much. Yeah, I said quietly. I know you didn't. A tense silence stretched between us. Megan's having a hard time with the school pickups, she continued. We both work late some days, and she's not used to taking the city bus. I remained silent. We really didn't expect things to get this chaotic so fast. That's probably because you never noticed what was holding it all together, I replied, keeping my voice even. Another long pause. Then, well, she said, gathering herself, I do hope you're happy over there. I smiled, though she couldn't see it. I am. And the surprising thing was, I truly was. The days after that conversation felt surreal, like watching my former life play out behind soundproof glass. Megan stopped texting after her last ignored message. Robert didn't call again. Pride, most likely. Sarah sent a few awkward texts sporadically, usually vague and passive-aggressive. Hope things are good with you. It's been kind of hectic around here. Never directly saying, we need your help, but implying, things are harder now. I didn't reply, but news traveled through the grapevine. Mutual acquaintances, neighbors. The lawn was apparently resembling a jungle. Megan had missed her bus a couple more times, getting caught in the rain once. Their electricity was shut off for several hours one afternoon because the bill payment was forgotten. The porch light remained stubbornly dark. They were fumbling, drowning in the accumulation of small tasks they'd always taken for granted. The invisible labor I used to perform without thinking. And the strangest part? I felt no satisfaction, no smugness. The anger was gone. I was just finished. I settled deeper into my own routine. I started cooking actual meals for myself. Simple stuff, but it tasted better somehow. Not because of the ingredients, but because of the independence. My sleep improved dramatically. No more floorboards creaking outside my door late at night. No more unexpected knocks demanding a late-night errand. No persistent buzz of obligation vibrating in my skull. Just quiet, real earned quiet. One evening, about 10 days after I'd left, I got home from a long shift at Metro Logistics to find a small envelope slipped under my apartment door. No return address, just my name scrawled on the front in Sarah's familiar handwriting. Inside was a single sheet of notebook paper, folded twice. At the top, she'd written, which we didn't realize. Below that was a list, messier than mine. More like scattered thoughts than bullet points. The trash cans, Megan's rides, the Wi-Fi constantly dropping, the groceries, that dripping sink, the porch light thing, how quiet it is now. At the very bottom, one stark sentence. We didn't treat you like family. I'm sorry, that was all. No request for me to return. No promises of change, just that simple, raw acknowledgement. And for the first time since walking out that door, I felt a tiny internal shift. Not forgiveness, not yet, but something less heavy than resentment. Maybe it wasn't closure, but perhaps it was a start. I never responded to the note. Not out of spite. I definitely felt something. I left it on my kitchen counter for days, rereading it occasionally, trying to parse its meaning. But one letter couldn't erase years of feeling like a functional ghost in my own home. A hastily scribbled list didn't undo all the times my presence was only truly registered when something needed fixing or funding. They were starting to see the void I left clearly, but it wasn't my responsibility to fill it anymore. Word reached me by the second week that Megan had finally mastered the bus route, though not without a few hiccups. Sarah had hired a local lawn care service. Robert had apparently attempted to fix the Wi-Fi himself, managed to unplug the main modem entirely, and accidentally disabled the home security system and their smart TV for a whole day. They were learning, stumbling through the basics like toddlers taking their first steps. And me? I was flourishing in the newfound space created by their absence. I started reclaiming parts of myself I hadn't realized I'd suppressed. I bought a nice reading lamp. Not out of necessity, but purely because I liked it. I made Friday night pizza a personal tradition. I even enrolled in a weekend photography workshop I'd wanted to do for ages, but had always postponed because inevitably, someone needed something. A ride, help with homework, a loan until payday. The burden was lifted. I hadn't fully grasped its weight until it was gone. One evening, cleaning up my digital clutter, I stumbled upon an old calendar alert I'd set months prior. Robert's truck insurance. Check if payment short. I stared at the notification for a long moment, then decisively hit delete. Later that night, I sat out on my tiny balcony, feet propped up on a folding chair, and just breathed in the cool night air. For the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't anticipating the next demand. I wasn't straining to hear my name being called from another room. I wasn't bracing for another request cleverly disguised as a simple favor. The silence wasn't lonely anymore. It felt like peace. It felt like mine. I haven't been back to that house. Not for holidays, not for birthdays, not at all. The calls have stopped entirely. Maybe it's embarrassment, maybe exhaustion, or maybe, just maybe, they finally understand that I wasn't just a guest who overstayed his welcome. I was the one quietly holding the place together. And when the support beams walk away, the whole structure starts to creak. The list I left on the fridge might still be there, a silent reminder, or maybe they took it down, unable to face the quiet accusation day after day. Either way, my point had been made.